impressions.
All right, I have today's topic.
Okay.
We're doing SEO interview questions.
Oh,
Ooh.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of SEO Fight Club. I'm just popping out the YouTube chat like a pro. Even muted the YouTube video before it played on air. And then I flubbed saying hello. All right. So I'd like to remind people to ask questions early because sometimes the time gets away from us and there's occasionally not enough time to answer everybody's questions. I say it happens one in every 4 or 5 shows.
Mhm.
But if there's something really important to you, ask it early. That way it makes the cut. And so I'd hate to have something urgent have to wait another week. With that, not a lot to announce other than SEO spring training still has some availability. They look like they're on track to sell out, but you never know. Uh, so if you're considering that, be sure to uh, you know get started sooner than later. And other than that, we have our community at SEOfightclub.org, so join us there. I'm not sure what's going to happen in terms of the Skype apocalypse. So, I'm kind of looking at Discord and groaning. I know it's the most popular option out there, but man, is it clunky. And yeah, even you Discord folks say it's clunky, so don't jump on me. Um, Lee, what are you doing for the Skype apocalypse?
Well, I'm not going to make my. I announced to my group I'm not making my decision until mid-April because there's a couple of things. There's, as you know, there's a lot of different platforms that people like to use, and nobody wants to jump on 27 different platforms. Nobody wants to have that many tabs, browsers, apps, things like that open. So when groups have moved, there is a natural fall off and sometimes a significant fall off in both the population of the group and the interaction of the group. So I know that Teams is making it sort of push button to move over to Teams, and it's kind of like Skype. It's got its issues, same ones that Skype had. I think a lot of people are just going to wait and default to that. So as we get closer to it, people might go, Teams is pretty good, or it's not that good, or there'll be the hell with Teams. I'm going to the other apps. I know Discord is the other one that's the biggest contender for that because there's some nice things that you can do in there, but there are some things that are just make Discord a pain in the butt. So I haven't decided yet. I'm waiting to see sort of how it shakes out, where populations move, not just in our industry but in other industries, because platforms that get more heavily adopted tend to get upgraded and improve the pain in the butt features. So
Yeah, I'm tempted to try the octagon method. Two platforms enter, one platform leaves. So
mhm.
set them both up and then just carry off the corpse.
Yeah. Well, I think the problem is, if you do that with your group, you'll probably have like 5% will go to platform A, 5% will go to platform B, and the rest of them are sitting there. So you don't really get, good.
Yeah, it's not a good transition.
Yeah, because people are like, what are you doing? You making me a guinea pig? I don't want to have to move and then move again. I don't want to move the first time, and personally, I love Skype. I've used it for, since the early days. And if Microsoft had come out and said, "Hey, Lee, Skype's getting old and clunky. We got something better we'd like to show you," I might have been inclined. But what they did was they put a gun to my head and said, "We're taking your Skype away. Would you like to move over to Teams?" And I'm not really inclined to reward putting a gun to my head.
Yeah, bad behavior. It's like
Yeah.
all the people where Google like totally craps on organic SEO and ruins their Q4. So in a mad dash, they switch over to Google Ads and throw money at them. That'll teach them.
Yeah.
uh, can't stand it, but that's unfortunately how the world works. People literally do that.
Yeah. So
Um,
in my case, it'll be probably one of those two platforms. I'm leaning more towards Discord because of some of the capabilities of having, multiple discussions. The one pain in the butt feature about Skype is, you got to scroll back and you've got multiple conversations going on at the same time. So, going back through it's harder to go back
yeah,
and digest historical stuff.
one of the issues SEO communities have is reaching new eyeballs. And, that's the hardest thing. How do you reach out to people that aren't already in the circle? And, the big upside to Discord is the next generation is already on it.
Mhm.
So those are new eyeballs, just ready to learn something new and start their own businesses and do all that stuff. So that's probably the most compelling argument to me for Discord is just the volume of users already there.
Well, there are also things like you have to consider. I put a poll in one of the little Skype groups that I'm in 3 weeks ago, and then I put one in my mastermind, and the poll results were different. In the other group, there's a lot more international SEOs in that group, and so there's a ton of users on platforms like WhatsApp, and they're already there and so forth. So when you look at it, if you're looking at the eyeballs, if you look at the SEO community globally, where are they located? Because our little groups might be looking at platform A and platform B, but the rest of the SEO world largely is on platform C.
Yeah, yeah. If you're going that way, you want LinkedIn. And I'm not going to LinkedIn.
No, I'm not going to LinkedIn. Holy moly. And the other one that we looked at, and a couple of people have mentioned this, but then they thought better of it is, oh, I'll go build my own, platform. We'll go to Quora.com, and we'll just have,
Yeah, but
SEO.com, we'll have our own
you
little.
you head down that road. Next thing you know, you have an IMG and what you do.
Well, the problem there is it's not only that, but it's like, oh God, here's one more platform that I have to have open, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
So it doesn't integrate well, doing it all on your own. Even if you made the best thing ever, it doesn't integrate well. So,
So yeah, no answers yet. We'll do something and
yes.
we'll let you know about it.
Well, we have the option of doing nothing, and then we just automatically move into teams. When they shut it off, you just move over. So you don't actually have to do something. And I think I'm wondering how much of the world will do that just out of apathy. I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to move. And then just, you get moved into the new platform and away it goes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what to say. Charles, you have anything to announce?
Nothing to announce this week.
Is your roster full?
My roster's almost full. I've got it ends up I'll fill up for a few weeks and then I somehow get like a week where it's like really nicely not full. And actually I enjoy those weeks. I'm not sure I want to try to jam
Yeah.
pack those odd weeks with people.
You have
I
a
probably
couple
should.
hours between 10 and midnight.
Yeah. Actually, I do have one announcement. I created a business page for myself on LinkedIn. So there you go. I've
There
really
you
made it
go.
now. I've made it now.
He's
Yep.
official now. That's it.
Nice. All right. So let me pull up my browser here while people think of questions they actually want to know. We're going to answer some questions they never asked. And so that's the plan. Let's see. Here we go. Go to this tab. So we're looking at SEO interview questions, ones we've had in our past and ones from a list I have in front of me. It's all just kind of nebulous SEO interviews.
Hold
So
on a
this
second.
has,
Let's clarify, sir. Are we talking about I'm going to work, inside, or I'm being interviewed by a potential client?
yes.
Excellent.
So this goes to
All
show,
right.
Ted, this goes to show how in sync you and I are. So we didn't talk about this at all.
Mhm.
Someplace on the interwebs, I'm not sure where, because I did this a couple years ago. I wrote an article about how to interview for an SEO position, and I did that out of frustration while I was at Verizon because I was getting so many poor applicants. And people that just, and it's not that they may or may not have known what they were talking about, but they just weren't prepared for an interview. They weren't prepared for questions. And I was just, my philosophy always is when you interview somebody, and this is whether you're interviewing a client or an employee, or whether you're an employee interviewing someplace, that's their A game. That's the best they're ever going to be. They're never going to be any better than that moment in time. And if they don't bring their A game, then you've got nothing but problems. So if you're talking to, and it's those, if you're talking to a client and they already start in on it, and when you're just talking to them initially, that's before they're giving you money. They're only going to get worse.
Mm.
All right. I'm going to start this off. I'm going to both ask and answer, and then I'll turn it over to you guys. But this first question, in my mind, is deceptively good. And so the problem with this question is people will see it in grown and they'll be like, "Oh God, it's so general. It's not specific to the domain knowledge." But it can be. It can be a place where you can really make a massive impression by knowing more than other people, even though the question doesn't feel like it gives you that opportunity. So the question is, why is SEO important to businesses? And I'll give you my answer right here, but just take a moment and kind of think about the outline components of your answer for a second. Why is SEO important to businesses? And my answer is because it lifts all boats across the entire organization. Because it's the free clicks from search, it has the best margin out of any marketing channel you have. All other marketing channels aspire to have SEO's margin. Additionally, SEO can increase the quality score of your landing pages, thus getting you higher rankings and paid clicking at a lower spend. So your SEO and your pay-per-click teams need to be in lockstep. Additionally, SEO has promotional value. SEO can be used to actually clear the shelves in the fulfillment center. So if you're smart about 410s and you're smart about doing timed updates and you're good at figuring out how to tune the summary text and the title text that is getting displayed in the search results, you can actually take advantage of a lot of promotional activity, especially with schema. You can do your in stock, your shipping promotions, your pricing, your aggregate star ratings, which is click through rate. Additionally, SEO matters for print media, television media, billboards. Heck, even if you have a clown twirling a sign out by the interstate, that leads to brand search. Brand search is SEO. All of those other channels, when they're successful, they convert to search, and that's SEO. So, yeah, why is SEO important to the business? It lifts all boats. Lee, what do you think?
Honestly, I'm just here because I heard you had free donuts in the break room. But if I had to answer the question, what I would say is that when you hear the question, why is SEO important? Most people think of SEO as optimizing a website for Google. And I don't think of SEO that way. Search engines are everywhere. It's not just Google and Bing or DuckDuckGo. All the social platforms are search engines. People look for things on YouTube. People look for things on TikTok. People look for things on X. And even though we classify those differently, there are processes for optimizing your business to appear on all of those platforms when people are searching for a solution to a problem that is solved by your product or service. So the reason I would say that SEO is important is because damn near the entire world searches for answers online. And if you're not there, you're dead.
Pretty good. And I agree. Even if you only look at Google and Bing, when you take into account syndicated search, safe search, and portal start pages with integrated search, things like that, there's a lot more than just google.com and bing.com
Mm-hmm.
for Google and Bing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, great answer. Charles, let's see
So
if you
the
make the cut.
so when I pitch it to the C-suite, I always just say one basic thing, which is essentially what you said, Ted. But I tell people that SEO is important because it is a fixed cost marketing center, um, or marketing channel. Every other marketing channel that they have, they're
Mm.
constantly having folks coming to them saying, we need more money, we need more money, we need more money. Whereas with SEO, we can say, hey, this is what it's going to cost to hire a manager, a director, whatever. We're going to have some tools. And so the chain cost may change a little bit month to month, but only a couple hundred or a couple thousand. But they know that the amount they spend in January is for the most part going to be the same amount they spend in June and September and the following December, and the budget will stay pretty much the same for years. It will not drastically change unless we need some new tool. Um, Whereas every other channel folks go to, if they want more clicks, if they want more eyeballs, if they want more customers, they have to pay more money. And then the moment they stop paying that money, typically most of it goes away. There is some residual, but it'll all eventually go away. Whereas SEO, if you were to stop spending the money, you're going to keep it for a lot longer than you would if you stop spending money on pay-per-click or radio ads or something else. The other little side benefit I always give folks is that when you get hire an SEO, if you're hiring a good SEO or a good SEO team, you're also getting webmasters. And a lot of sites, you'd be amazed how many large companies don't have webmasters anymore. And so you have somebody who's always looking at the website and spots all the weird things that are happening on the website. Whether you want them to spot it or not, we're going to see it. And we're going to say, hey, do you know that you're doing this here, we're doing this here. Do we really want to be doing this? And so that's a side benefit I always say with bad SEO.
That's kind of a harsh answer. The first part of that, it's like, okay, the pay-per-click thing. It's like, you paid me, I gave you a click. Do you want another one?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all right. Check, please.
Yeah.
All right. So on the three answers, it's my personal opinion that Charles won that by a landslide because his answer is perfect for an enterprise in-house SEO job. And it just, it speaks to having been there and done that before a lot. And so, yeah, for an enterprise role, I think Charles' answer won the contest.
I'm just gonna say, again, I'm gonna reiterate, I was just here for the donuts, so I don't really care.
Yeah, you get your donut on the way out of the interview.
That's fine. As long as I get my donuts, we're good.
All right. Let's switch gears. What would you guys ask of an SEO you were looking to hire?
I will tell you that back when I worked in the database marketing, direct marketing field, we were always looking for talented analysts. And it wasn't a specific skill set, it was variable. And so I'd learned from the way that Google and Microsoft, this is 2 decades ago, used to do interview. They'd ask you something like, Ted, how many ping pong balls fit into the body of a 747 airplane? And they would wait for you to solve
And
it.
yeah, I can solve it. It's enough to do 2 Jack in the Box promotions.
Well, they were looking more like it's a cylinder, and a cylinder is a certain size, and a ping pong ball is a certain size. So you're making a calculation. You're just thinking through the problem and how I might solve the damn thing. Because I don't know
Well,
exactly.
it's not solved until you get the money back. So the 2 Jack in the Box promotions, I mean, that's short order return.
But what I found was the most predictive of success for an analyst was this question. And that is, tell me something you taught yourself. And I didn't care if they taught themselves the violin or, how to paint or whatever it was. I found that, when you teach yourself something, you have curiosity, you have persistence, you're going and you're learning, for by whatever means. And back, 20 years ago, we didn't have the internet to teach us, YouTube videos to follow along. And that was the type of person when I said, go figure out how anchor text works, they could go do it. Whereas a standard, person coming in from different corporate environments goes, all right, just give me the process and I'll go and execute it. I didn't want trained monkeys. I wanted people who could reverse engineer stuff. And SEO is all about that. So I'm not asking so much about your SEO background. I'm asking you, tell me something you taught yourself.
That's a pretty good one. Should we try to answer it?
Yeah. So Ted, tell me something you taught yourself. Because I would look at your resume and be, and then I would toss it off to the side. Literally, I would
Yeah,
toss it off to the side.
I would say SEO. I was hired as a web developer for an e-com store, and SEO fell on my plate as the new guy because everybody else was busy.
Mhm.
And I said, I don't know how to do this. And so I went to the business owner and I said, we have 15 stores. What's the smallest one that I can experiment with and learn this SEO stuff? So they gave me the smallest store they were thinking about shutting down, and I started experimenting. So I would go listen to the gurus, try what they said on the smallest one. Nah, that didn't work. Try something else. Nah, that didn't work. Try something else. Aha, that worked. Go back to the owner. I think we should do this on the other 14 sites. Boom, big growth.
Mhm.
And what's crazy is it was Midas touch type interactions because the business never needed to know about all the things that didn't work. I just kept going to these executive meetings saying, I think we should do X to all the sites. And it would always be this big, massive success. And so within the course of a year, I went from being the new guy to the director of BI.
Excellent. Mr. Taylor, tell me something that you taught yourself.
Well, yeah, other than obviously SEO, because the point I always try to make to everybody is like SEO, like I'm going to say same thing for you guys. When you were in high school and college, SEO wasn't even a thing. Like it wasn't something that existed. So we all had to teach ourselves that. I found the biggest thing that I learned how to do, and I think maybe I was slanted towards a little bit, is how to communicate SEO to people who knew nothing about SEO, either to tech teams, to other managers or directors, maybe communicating it upwards, is how to take something that's very, very complex and distill it down to this is what's important and this is why that's important. So it's really the communication of the value or the communication of the value of doing a thing. And you'll find that with clients too. A contractor or a builder, this guy, he's even if they are a very savvy business owner, they're not, they don't know anything about SEO. So you have to explain to them why it's important. So explaining the why, I think, is something that I've spent a lot of time cultivating that ability to do that. I wasn't good at all in the beginning. But I did get good at it.
It's an excellent It's an excellent skill. I would have to say that Ted won that because he described the iterative process of learning something and it was directly applicable. It was SEO. So, 1 point, Ted.
All right, Charles, let's see how Lee does with your question.
So one of the questions I always ask people, actually my first is more like Lee's. I ask people their SEO origin story because I want to understand, I want to see if they have passion for SEO. And that's how you figure that out. But the other question I ask, and this tells me what kind of SEO they are, is what is the most innovative thing you have done in the last 6 to 8 months? Even if it failed, what is the most innovative or crazy idea you've had with SEO?
Well, I
Oh,
can't talk about mine because I'm saving it for a conference. But that
Well,
was
it
a
could be
good
something
effort. Good
it
try.
could be something from 8 months ago that you tried, like, oh yeah, that didn't work.
I think that in this particular day and age, we're all taking a look at a number of different AI tools and platforms and things like that, and trying to think of, how can I apply this to my particular, situation. So we all have prompts and process that we use to generate content, but I started thinking in terms of, can I use this for, can I use it as a not only a writer but an editor or this or that and the other thing. And one of the things that I did based on a conference that I attended in January, there was a gentleman by the name of Jordan Pierce who presented some information on Python. I went and using uh, the AIs learned and developed Python scripts which would pass stuff back and forth between the AIs, because OpenAI, ChatGPT is really good at following instructions. Claude is really good at creative stuff, but not so good at instructions. And so I would have each one of them do the parts that they were good at and then pass it back and forth to the other. And that worked out really, really well. And then recently I've learned that there's other ways of accomplishing that I'm now investigating because it's faster. But that was pretty cool. Kind of using everyone on your team, looking at AI as team members and using them for what they're good at.
Excellent.
Ted, are you answering
Terry.
that question? Ted, are you?
No, Ted,
Terry's
you got
gonna
to
answer?
answer the question.
Yeah, Ted's got to answer this
No
question.
ducking out.
I was hoping
Pick
to get
something from a
past
year or
this
If you
2 years
don't
one.
at
ago.
least answer, you don't get a donut on the way out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. I'd say something recent that I'm a little proud of is doing living tests in SEO. The problem with SEO testing is you put all this time and energy to find out some information. And then after you find the information, it gets stale with time. You start to wonder, is it still true today? And so the further away you get from the test date, the more doubt there is that it's still true today. You have worries about that older information. And so, yeah, I came up with a systematic way to repeat tests daily. And so now I have these living tests where I can go and see, what's the state of SEO today. And, that revolutionized how I think about a lot of things in SEO.
So I'm going to give the point to Lee because we had to pull that answer out of you, Ted.
Yeah, I'm a
But
reluctant interviewee.
But you could have won, is what he's saying. So it's
yeah,
like
you
a
could have
pity
won.
point. It's a
Yeah,
pity
I
point.
could have won.
But you know
Uh,
what? It keeps me in the game. There's nowhere on the score sheet where it said whether it was a good point or a bad point. It's just a one.
all right, now let's ask somebody who has experience. Terry, what would your interview question be?
Oh,
Interviewing someone to,
Yeah, to be an SEO on your team.
ooh, um, probably ask them what they have done in the last, say, 5 years even. What have they done that they shouldn't have done? looking back on it, but it worked out. A bad choice that worked out well. As far as, online stuff, I mean, I don't need to know about their marriage or,
You hear that, Lee?
Mm-hmm. I do. And I'm going to say before I answer this, it's not really fair because Terry's already fired me 6 times from his SEO team. So it feels like, I've already got a couple of strikes against me. But what I would say is that I started out and spent a lot of years listening to the gurus and trying to do what Ted described in his earlier answer, apply it and see how well it works. And I found that almost all of it doesn't work well because there's pieces that are missing either from the information that they gave or the knowledge that you have. And so that was a decade of poor decisions that finally led to enough pain for me to begin to test and figure out the things for myself and rely on the data rather than the common SEO practices and processes and tools. So it worked out, but there were some scars and lessons there along the way.
Charles, you want to take a stab at it?
Yeah. So something I shouldn't have done, but it ended up working out. So I don't want to give too much information, but I found that there was a date field in schema that if you use it properly, you totally fake out Google. And all Google's looking at is this date field. And so we ran a little test and we just updated that date and we saw, look at that. Google thinks that we are 100%, updated in the last 30 seconds. It does not know that we're just faking it out. Worked perfectly. We shouldn't do that. I wouldn't recommend anyone do it because if you get busted for it, you will lose, Google will say, well, we're just going to ignore your schema. Assuming they can even do that, now that I say that out loud, I wonder if they could even do that. They say they can do it, but maybe they can't. But yeah, there was, we figured out that we were putting a bad date in a field. And then once we fixed it, we saw what happened. And I asked myself, what happens if we just keep updating it with a script every 5 minutes? And so one of my devs did it and it pinned us to the top, for this event. And I was like, So that would be one thing. I wouldn't do it again. And I immediately told the devs, we're not doing this. This is not the lesson here is not that we should be tricking Google. The lesson here is we should be constantly putting fresh information on this page.
All right, black hat tactic, going dark. Like it.
Yeah. And I'm gonna sit there and say, on camera, he says, and then I told him, take it down. Did you? Did you? We're gonna talk over beers, my friend.
All right, so something I shouldn't have done.
But it worked out.
Without a doubt, I shouldn't have used the details tag for all of my supplemental AI content SEO. Because even though it's one of the 7 simple cloaking zones in HTML and it worked great for a long time, I put all my eggs in one tactic and Google made it a no indexing zone part of the page. So now everything I've built off of that tag, off of that tactic, doesn't work. It works out in the end. I just have to go and delete that tag and do something different. So it's literally replacing one HTML tag. But I should have known better to put all of my content and site into one tactic.
So Ted, are you saying you just swap tactics or now it's diversified?
Yeah. Did
Because
he
it kind of
learn?
sounds like you just swapped
Yeah.
tags.
Hey, I didn't know the interview was going to be this aggressive.
Yeah, Terry, I'm going to throw a flag down on the play. I think Charles and I, are, at least we're willing to learn from our mistakes. Ted's willing to repeat it publicly.
No
Mr.
comment.
Kubaitis, where exactly were you at 8 p.m. last night?
Yeah, come on.
Good question, Terry.
All right, so you gotta give a point there, Mr. Power.
I'm gonna have to give that to Charles.
Hmm.
Just because Lee's, yours was a little too generic.
Hmm.
His was more specific. And with Ted's, well, I went through the template tag, so I know the pain, but
Yeah, same mistake, different tag.
yeah.
So
Plus,
JP says,
Lee
from
wouldn't
what I
sleep with me again, so that cost him.
Hmm.
so JP saying, so what I got, none of you want to hire each other. No, we're just having fun with it. All right, we'll do one more and then we'll get to some questions. So be sure to ask your questions or it might be a short show. Um, let's see. What's a good question here? I don't want the nerdy ones.
Well, Ted's looking for that question. Here's something I always did to people in my interview. I make a page with lots of errors and problems in it. And then I give it to people. And I say, you have, I forget how much like time I have, 5 minutes to find all the problems on the page. Or actually what I do is I go to them and say, someone came to you and said, my page isn't ranking in Google. Here's the page. You have 5 minutes to tell me what the problem is. And the reason I like that is because it immediately tells me what kind of SEO they are. Someone who knows a lot about keywords immediately dives into the writing. They're looking for optimization. Someone who's very, very technical starts looking at no index tags and hrefs. And really, more importantly, the goal is not to see if there's more problems than you ever find in 5 minutes. But what I like to find is it gives me an understanding of what kind of SEO are they, and I figure out what their knowledge limit is. I had a professor in college years ago said that they didn't like it when I got hundreds on his test. He was a marketing professor. So I don't like it. You're getting hundreds on my test. I'm like, why not? He's like, because I don't know how much you know. Because you could know more than me. And because if you got a 99, then I'd know where your limit is. So I always took that to my interviews, and that's why I do. So I would recommend anyone do something like that if you're looking to hire people. Is give them a test they could never pass. It's kind of like the Star Trek with a Kobayashi Maru test, something they can't pass because you understand more about them, like what their limits are and how they think. And so
I had a professor in college that had a very similar philosophy. And in his particular class, if you got 30% of the exam correct, you got an A. He graded on a curve, but that was usually around 30, 31. And you're thinking, I got a 31 and I got an A. Well, the reason was he wanted to see if you got 70, man, you knew a whole lot more than, he wanted to see the upside on it. He didn't want, a curve where the average is 85 and, most people scored in that 90 to 100 range. He said it was useless in terms of determining what you knew. So
he was looking for an intern. All right, so the last question we'll do today is one where I feel it's about fishing how people are going to respond more than what they respond. But what they respond could be interesting on this one. Explain LSI.
I love this one.
yeah, as soon as Clint shows up, Ted goes, another question.
This is a great one
week
because
ratings week.
Yeah, it's all about definitions, right? So LSI, latent semantic indexing. And the underlying question is, does Google use latent semantic indexing? And they've already said, no, we don't use latent semantic indexing, which is different from LSI keywords, which is essentially How do you put it in common language? Common words used. So if Ted Kubaitis and Lee Witcher both wrote an article about the diagnostics capabilities of data through spreadsheets, both of those super nerds would use essentially the same set of words to write that article. And that same set of words can be used by an algorithm to say what these two pages are about. Even simpler, they both write an article about apple pies. They're both going to use similar words to describe those apple pie things. Unless Ted goes crazy and writes something about an apple combination pie machine that he built for space flight. I don't know. Right? So LSI keyword LSI, no, it's not. Google has already said, hey, we're not using that. Even if they did, you'd be a little weary to trust it. I mean, there are people that have smashed me down because I said that Google uses LSI and they talk down to other SEOs. If you even mention LSI, I'm not even counting you as a good SEO, that kind of crap. But the evidence is there. So they're using LSI keywords or they're using TF IDF to analyze LSI keywords. And if you ever preached about, oh, I want to put entities and do entity optimization in my content and create conversational search strings, you're using LSI keywords or TF IDF or semantic SEO, which are essentially all the same thing with just new fancy names and different applications in the math.
All right, Lee, do better than that.
I'd say LSI is a term that comes from library science, and it's an indexing algorithm that looks at certain terms related to certain topics. In the SEO field, it's a controversial term because it comes from library science, and while Google has denied using it, and by the technical letter of the definition of latent semantic indexing, that's probably correct. The truth of the matter is the concept here is there are certain words that go with topics, and whether you call them keywords, variations, LSI, or entities, it doesn't fucking matter. We're talking about the same terms. We're talking about what terms do we use to communicate a topic, and those are the terms that Google would understand. So it's important to have good definitions, but it's more important just to understand how the algorithm works. And whether we say terms are keywords, entities, LSI, or whatever, ultimately the data suggests and the testing suggests that they're important to include in your content in order to get rankings.
All right, Charles, let's see if you can win this one.
All right. So I have gotten this question from writers, and they'll ask, and the first question is, who taught you that word LSI? Because that's not a word most people know. And so I explain, I say, look, LSI, Google says they don't use it. Whether they do or they don't is irrelevant. They're using some kind of calculation. And what LSI essentially means is, I use the term co-occurring words. When you're talking about a subject, there are other words that need to be in there in order for the algorithm to understand that you are covering the subject. In the old days, just repeat the word over and over and over again. Google's got a little more sophisticated. So it's also a good way of disambiguating a concept. So my example is always take the word plant. When I say plant, am I talking about like a shrub, a tree? Am I talking about a factory? Am I talking about a spy within an organization? You have no way of knowing what I'm talking about. But if I then say Ford Motor Company, Detroit, Michigan, you immediately know, oh, plant means manufacturing plant, a factory. So it's words that help the algorithm understand the subject you're talking about. So a well-written article, so I always would tell authors, a well-written article should naturally include these words, but it's always worth reviewing your content and just making sure that if you stripped out the main word, could people still figure out what the subject of the article was about?
All right, it's my opinion that the only one of us that would get a job in this climate is Charles.
And that's ironic if anyone knows my past few months' history.
I don't think if I said to you or to Clint that you're unhireable, that you would take that as a slur or a slap. You go, yeah.
Yeah, I've been there. I've done that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people know my stance on climbing the corporate ladder anymore. I love small business. I've never been happier than running a small business. And if you're out there banging your head on your cube wall, it's a scary transition. It's definitely harder work. It's definitely more hours, but you're working for yourself and not someone else. No one can fire you, but you can earn less. There are pros and cons, and you're pandemic proof if you're working from home, and there's more time with your family if you have little kids. You know, weigh the pros and cons. You do have to pay for your own insurance, and that's expensive. It is what it is, but I'm not looking back. I like where I'm at. What
That's a
what
good
about
mini
you,
sub.
Clint?
That's a good mini subject, Ted. We should do that sometime. Just kind of the pros and cons of each, because I could name lots of benefits to working for companies. I
Mhm.
can name lots of benefits for not working for companies, and drawbacks. There's drawbacks to both as well. Um,
Yeah.
I will say working for a large organization, it can get comfortable.
Yep.
Even if it's not, even if you don't like being there, it's often comfortable. It's like the child in their dirty diaper. It's mine and it's warm and I like it. It doesn't mean it's good, but it's just it gets comfortable.
You could have said Lee in his diaper instead
No,
of saying a
Yeah.
child. That just
That was a really creepy analogy.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm
it was all for
unclear.
you, Clint. It was all for you, buddy.
Charles is in his diaper and it's warm, and is that an argument for or against? I'm unclear here.
Take it how you want to take it.
I would kind of with Charles. When I was working with the big agency, it was nice. It was comfortable. It was consistent. Um, but on the other hand, it's not like I'm a people person anyway, but now I'm in this mix of where not only do I have to do a good job, but I also have to play peacemaker, um, psychiatrist, disciplinarian, all at the same time, which is just a lot of stuff that, I mean, I grew up doing that in the army and I just don't want to do it anymore. You just can't pay me enough to want to do that part of it anymore. If I could be in, like, if I could take the director of SEO job at Fox News, I would totally do it as long as I didn't have to talk to anyone else. That would be awesome.
Yeah, the thing that ultimately got me about corporate culture is the imbalance of loyalty. The employees have to be loyal to the corporation 100%, but there's no expectation of loyalty in return. And that's hard, especially like if you're managing a team and the company says, "Hey, your team did great again. You guys always do double-digit growth every year. Love it. But the company's in a hard time, so fire 3 of them."
Mhm.
Yeah.
you know, that's hard to do. And so, yeah, I don't like taking direction like that. And that's probably why I'm not hireable in a corporation.
Well, the
I
hard
would
part about
push
that,
back.
That
I've
goes
seen,
with small business too, though. Like,
Yeah, it can.
especially if you're running an agency, like a software, you've run into it. Like
Yeah.
you don't really want to hire people to help you with coding, for example,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
don't hire out of a fear of having to lay them off.
yeah, so
Yes.
it's the same with small business. You kind of got to deal with that. It is shit. It sucks. Um, but I think if on the flip side of that, you can handle that a lot better than corporate people do, right? So
That's true.
Ted is required to give 2 weeks notice to quit. You should be required to give 2 weeks notice to fire. Just give me a heads up. That's all I want. I get it. It's life, it's business, it happens. You got to do that stuff, but you shouldn't just dump someone off and kick them to the curb, no notice. And the corporate part. Like they just, how much time did you get, Charles? Did you get heads up? You're like, hey, you're going, or does it give you a call
I
one day
got
and say,
notified.
pounce it?
I was asked to get on a call at 5 o'clock on a Thursday, the week before Thanksgiving. That was, and I got on the call. I thought I was going to get told that somebody else had quit because there was somebody in the org. I'm like, I don't think this person's going to last. And I was expecting my VP to say, hey, I just want to give you a heads up. It's going to be official tomorrow, but so and so is leaving. And that wasn't unusual. We've had those kinds of calls many times. But it was when I got on the call and there was an HR rep on the call, I'm like, oh boy, what fresh hell is this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I think you could have, my argument would be, okay, you don't need Charles anymore, fine, but you could at least be human and do it after Thanksgiving and then say, hey, you got 2 weeks notice so that you're, because Christmas is coming up, we get it, go find another job, you use the 2 weeks to do that. That would have been.
So in defense of a corporation or any company, though, do you want somebody in your org with access to everything that knows they're leaving in 2 weeks?
Yeah,
You
most
could,
companies won't do it.
like,
They'll kill your accounts before they let you know.
yeah,
When
they killed
does
all my access by the end of that call. And to their credit, I would probably do the same thing. Now, with that said, I've submitted resignations to people, to many organizations when I was going to leave. I had one company I gave them 2 months notice. I said, hey, I know I'm important here. I'm willing to give you up to 2 months. And they're like, great. When I was with Verizon, I was on a call at like 3 o'clock on my last day. In the beginning of the call, I just said, hey guys, you realize in like 2 hours, I don't work here anymore. And everybody's like, yeah, we know, but they knew I'd do the right thing. They knew I was going to help them. They knew that up until my last minute, I was helping that organization. Because that's just me, although I realize not a lot of people are like that. So I would say, Clint, I agree. I understand your point, Clint, 100%. But I would say as an organization, if I was firing somebody, I'd probably be like, you know what? You can just go home. We're going to pay you for the rest of the week. Don't worry about that. Because you don't want them because you don't know how, Lee could say, oh, you fire me, will you? Well, let's see how your website works without a CDN,
Yeah,
or something like that.
the number one cause of negative SEO is a disgruntled insider. So,
But
yeah, there's
on
some
the other
truth.
hand, I've seen it in smaller businesses, so not a Fox, but in smaller businesses, you sometimes have owners that really do care about their employees. They're not the most common thing, but they happen. So I know in a couple of cases, I know the companies where things got a little tight, and what they did was they reduced everybody's hours a little bit, so they didn't have to lay anybody off. Everybody kind of understood what it was. And then when things picked back up in like 3 months, they all went back to their previous, levels and, all those kind of things. Just trying to, rather than, okay, we got to fire 3 of us to make it. It's like if everybody takes a 15% reduction, we can all, weather the storm together. But it's something like Fox, Charles's supervisor could have fucking loved Charles. I will never ever. And then somebody above him says, let Charles go. You don't have the control in those sort of environments. And in the larger organizations, especially publicly traded, you got that fiduciary responsibility thing, which means that, hey, if we think things are happening and we've got to cut staff to, make numbers, we got to cut today, not 3 weeks from today.
It's one of the lessons that we learned in the Army is you are replaceable. And it doesn't take 2 weeks to find your replacement. Like in the Army, they replace you that day. Like you're gone, they're in at the same day. A lot of time you're there overlap. So I think large corporations are much like that. I mean, you can have a sense of loyalty to the Army. I love the Army. I would do anything for the Army, but at the end of the day, when your time is up, your time is up. So.
And what that has created, this, the corporate environment, like, hey, sometimes we just got to make a decision. What ends up happening in any corporation and any large organization, and it wouldn't even necessarily be large, even medium-sized organizations. And Clint, I think you made a comment like this on one of our chat places, someplace where you have an entire organization of employees that their job is to not get fired. Like they don't worry about what's best for the company. They may or may not be looking at KPIs. The only KPI they're worried about is, do I keep my job? And now you have an organization that could be a medium, could be small, could be enterprise, and it's full of people who are worried about one thing and one thing only, and that's protecting myself. They hire people to protect themselves, so they hire people to put under them that they know will not undercut them. They will not make decisions. They will make the wrong decision, but it looks good. And that's not good for them. And that's why these large companies eventually fail, ultimately, because they under their own weight of just
Yeah, and it
poor decisions or
creates
no
the little
decisions.
yeah, the little fiefdoms inside. The reason, that I haven't hit my KPIs is because Charles' team hasn't delivered the thing, and they're like, 2 months behind on that. So, what are we to do? We're
Yeah.
trying, and then all of a sudden it's, I just threw Charles under the bus. And then if you do it really, really well, Charles has a history of this sort of thing over there in that team, and stuff like that. So we just drive the bus back over,
Yeah.
over Charles's body. And I keep my job. Even though I haven't done anything, I keep my job.
Yeah, the two things that people do is they'll try to blame other organizations. You got to be careful because if I blame Terry and blame Clint too much, they might start trying to attack me corporately. The other way that organizations do it is they hire agencies and just blame the agency. And then just fire oh, we're not doing good. Yeah, we got to get rid of this agency. Let's get a new agency. And there's never a discussion that the people in charge of that part in the organization have any blame whatsoever. It's 100% the agency. Oh, Kubaitis Inc. just wasn't the right agency. We got to let them go and bring in, Powers Inc. And then the same problem will occur. And okay, we got to get rid of Power Inc. Let's get Butler Inc. Well, that's good. That's the good agency. That's the decision.
All right, let's get to some questions. All right, let's see. JP says Discord is the way to go. And let's see. JP says Lee is drinking beer live. What are you drinking?
It's actually tea, but it looks like beer, and I wish it were beer. It goes
All
good with
right.
my donuts, man.
Beer and donuts. Let's see. We're changing the way we do rank reports, as old school rank reports is game over, moving towards pixel depth and features visibility. All right. So, yeah, you're thinking forward. You're reading my mind here. Yeah, new kinds of ranking trackers are in your future. I guarantee that. Um, any ideas on how it could evolve? Well, that's part of my topic for spring training. So I'm not going to touch this question other than saying, good question, good move. You're changing with the times. I like it.
I'll take because as a data guy, I'll look and say the purpose of any report, any good report, is to facilitate good decision making. And so we have a lot of reports out there and a lot of dashboards and things like that display nice information, and it's really pretty and it looks interesting, but the now what, has not been answered. So the question is, when you're looking at the rankings, if this is a ranking report, what decision should it be obvious that I should be making based on the data that's before me? Because that determines the form of the report and the types of measurements that you use. So if you tell me, hey, now in my ranking report, a video carousel is now there, it's a new feature. I'm like, that's interesting. What do I need to do? Do I need to adjust to a potentially a lower level of clicks because now I've been moved down on the page? Or do I need to go after a different keyword, or do I need to do video? I mean, what's the action that I need to take? So when you're designing reports, you need to be thinking about the end game, which is better decision making, not just, ooh, I can show things in a lot of different graphical forms and overwhelm our team or a client with just a lot of pretty things that don't do shit.
Yeah, good point. A lot of people out there are playing Star Trek Commander with their SEO dashboards.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one way of doing it. It's not my way of doing it. All right. A key revenue page of ours has seen a 40% drop in organic traffic over a few weeks. Beyond the usual suspects, what other not so well known steps would you recommend to investigate the issue? A couple things come to mind right away. You're going to have to look at a sampling of the keywords that lead to that page. And has Google moved other channel marketing above organic? Because that will poach your visitors. So you could have done nothing wrong, and Google could have done the issue. The other thing is what happened to sales, because if your order volume or your revenue didn't decline with the traffic decline, maybe you got better at blocking bots. Maybe that's traffic that was never going to convert. Maybe it was off target traffic. You turned off an ad campaign that never converted. There could be a lot of things there. I wouldn't rush too quickly to blame SEO. You might also check for deployment dates from your web development team, because if a deployment date coincides with a drop, it could be something new that they rolled out that they didn't realize was bad. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I had we were at a conference a couple of years ago, and a guy asked this question. He said, there's recent Google update and we suffered a drop, and what do I do, is kind of the form of the question. And I asked him, I said, what makes you think, that the drop was caused by the Google update? Was it some of the pages or all of the pages on your site? So was it site-wide or was it a subset of pages? And when you looked at, if it was a subset of pages, was it all the keywords or just some of the keywords, for that particular page? And so when you start to look at those things, it gives you a very different pictures and very different avenues to go down to identify and solve the problem. In this particular case, the guy reached out to me a couple of weeks later and said, oh my God, I appreciate that, because I went back and looked and it was just some of the pages, and all of those pages had a script, and that script broke. And when we fixed the script, magically, they went back to where they were before. So it wasn't the update, and it wasn't the SEO, and it wasn't any of that sort of stuff. So you kind of have to have a clue about what's the cause of the drop. And, things like, is it site-wide or a page? Some keywords, all of the keywords tend to give you some ideas about, where to look and dig a little deeper.
Any thoughts, Charles?
Yeah, this just reinforces what I said earlier. Before we started recording, I want to do a deck about diagnosing drops, because I think there's so many things to look, and it could be a multi-week presentation, quite honestly. But yeah, but to Lee's point, I agree. The first thing I always did, this always happened in enterprise. Someone would come to me and say, we're losing traffic. Fact check the data. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me and say we're losing traffic, and we weren't losing traffic. Something was broken. Traffic reporting was broken. Now, assuming Glenn here is correct, it is organic traffic, then I look at impressions, I look at clicks, and I look at rankings, and I say what of those have gone down. If your impressions and your clicks have gone down, then you're probably losing rankings or dropping keywords. If your impressions are solid but your clicks are down, well, now could be like Ted said earlier, Google's just putting more on the page and stealing your clicks. Or here was something that happened to me. We went from number 1 on almost every subcategory keyword to number 3. That killed our traffic. Our impressions looked great though. And the ranking reports didn't look that bad. It was, we were normally 1, now we're 3. We should be okay. But the breadth of the keywords really hurt us. And I've also seen scenarios where keywords drop, but you realize you were showing up as a site link to another page. So nothing bad has happened. It's just Google's changed the presentation of your site. So there's really a lot of things to look at.
Yeah, you can also see that another one that pops up, and I can't wait till we do this ranking drop thing. But you might have had some links roll off, press release, then and it purged, some of the sites purged their cache, and all of a sudden, where before that revenue page had 200 referring domains. Now it has 73 referring domains. And you're like, oh, what happened was, you no longer have the power that you used to have, and the fix is different than, some of these other things that we've discussed here. So,
But to your point, I would go with what Lee said. Essentially, the first is like first figure out what's drop. Is it impressions? Is it rankings? Is it clicks? Is it all of them? Is it specific keywords? You got to just figure out what is driving the drop at a page level, and you can get that in Search Console.
hmm.
All right, let's see. Charles's answer to question 1 was an A plus plus plus. I agree. He definitely won question 1 by a lot. Let's see. I believe I've made 90% of the mistakes in SEO that one should avoid over the past 9 years. I've definitely hit a lot of bumps along the way. Good. That's called learning. If here's the thing. If you as an SEO get backed into a corner where your next mistake means you're fired, I mean, how fast are you going to learn your trade? How open are you to experimenting with new ideas? How quickly are you going to learn what works and what doesn't? Because if you're backed into a corner, you're going to play it safe, and play it safe SEO. It gives you those last few weeks, but it's terminal. And so, yeah, make mistakes, find a safe place to fail. It's key to have a safe place to fail. When I was experimenting on the smallest site, that was my safe place to fail. I could sweep all the failures under the rug, and I was learning faster than I've ever learned ever before. And I had the Midas touch with the executive team. Safe place to fail. So you can keep learning. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, you had a little skunk works. And, we always tell people you want to learn something fast. There's two ways to do it. Get a brand new site and try to take it up to number one, or take a site that you have right now and try to tank it, draw a penalty, see what you can do. And either way, when you try to push the limits up or down, you're going to learn more faster than you will by, taking courses or, listening to theory or whatever else. You got to be able to try it and prove it and see whether it works and whether it, you can replicate it. So that's
I
why I
don't
love your I had this little store and I could just screw up as often as I want and nobody would ever know because, the rest of the business was going on. They were going to close this thing down anyway. I think in the consulting work that I've done over the years, there's been a handful of times when I run into that situation. We're going to shut this down, or we're going to purge this part of, our email list or whatever. It's like, well, since you're going to throw it away, let's try some things. And
Yeah, and if I was gonna start a new business in some other industry, I know that starting from scratch, it's only like a 10 or 15% extra investment to start two of the exact same business, but branded differently.
mhm.
And so why not have two of the same business instead of one? And then you can experiment on the one that doesn't take off. And so the little one of the same business, that's your test ground for new employees. That's how you learn new SEO concepts.
Mhm.
That's where you split test marketing that might be you know complicated for your markets, and you can figure out what's happening. Um, yeah, I don't know why people don't do it. Just clone the site, make it unique, give it a new brand, set up your legal doing business as, and now you have two businesses in the industry that can rank side by side, and a safe place to fail, even a safe place for other people you hire to fail.
Mhm.
Imagine how much less stress it is when they fail on the little site. But you don't have to fire them. You can say, hey, let's look at this mistake. How could we avoid it in the future? Because their next success might be worthy of moving to the main site. Think about all the firing you can avoid and all the personal growth you can help mentor.
I think I was talking to Charles yesterday, which we were he was doing some testing. I won't describe the testing, but he'd set up these stupid little YouTube videos to do the testing that he was doing, and he's testing a whole bunch of different things, and learning from that. And it's kind of fun and it's goofy. It's no different than if we threw up a bunch of YouTube videos about your ancient fossils, Ted. We're gonna do some things, we're gonna see some things, and figure out some things. And I find that people, when you talk about you should set up a site to test or this to test, some videos to test or a site or whatever it is, people think, oh man, that's a lot of extra work. And I'm like, it is work. However, so is continually chasing the newest hot thing, trying to figure out if this is the thing that's going to fix your SEO. That's a lot of damn work. And so, I always tell people that get a site and try some crazy theories and see what happens. You will learn more faster than, any other way.
Yeah, if you're scouring YouTube and blogs for answers that can get you out of that corner, that's work too.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. We missed a question, so I'm going to go back a little bit here. Anders asks, which tools are you guys using for research, like Moz or Screaming Frog and the likes? Which tools to stay away from? What would be the great accuracy one can expect, high-low of the most used? Well, here's my answer to it. All tools fail. And all tools have an ideal use case. So the question of the tools that you have, do you understand how they fail, what limits they have, and do you understand the ideal use case? Because if you're answering you don't know to either of those, you have a problem with tools. It's important to use the right tool for the right job, and a lot of people don't do that. And a lot of people don't realize, as Lee likes to say, I'll let Lee say it in his answer. But yeah, that's what I'd say. I'm not going to say don't use any tool. Even competitors of mine have valid use cases. Page Optimizer Pro is a quick win tool. It's good to get a good start on a keyword quickly and cheaply. It may not get you across the finish line in many cases, but that doesn't make it a bad quick win tool. Same thing. All tools have a use case. Lee, what's your answer?
I became a big fan of you used to talk about and still do over time, the all tools lie. And as a data guy, I know that to be true. And Charles talking about earlier, you suffered a traffic drop. Did you? Did you confirm that the data is in fact correct? And most people don't do that. They don't understand that tools, they measure, and sometimes they can measure incorrectly, or they can measure the wrong thing. Or one of my favorites that I use as an example, we all love entities. And we all have our favorite tool. This one grabs the best entities. We don't know which one grabs the best entities. We don't know which one is accurate or complete or the best or anything like that. But can I take the tool that I'm using and take those entities and make some decisions about my content? Yes, I can make some general decisions. But what I would never do is say, oh, this one's perfectly accurate. Every one of these entities is spot on, and everything that's been left off the list should have been left off the list. And I think that's where people get into it, is they just blindly trust the tool without ever questioning, whether it's accurate. And when they find out it's not accurate, they go on this quest for perfection, which you don't need to make a damn decision. So, tools, I don't use I use Screaming Frog, but I use Screaming Frog for Well, a few novel things, but generally speaking, as quick, a quick check of a site, see if there are any problems that I can identify. They're usually SEO problems more than technical problems. Um, I love Quora. Use that one a lot. Have some other tools that I've developed that I use, but it's just, it's a use case thing, and it depends on the type of stuff that you're using. Charles, when he was back at Enterprise and he was some of the larger clients that he has, uses a different tool set than I do. I don't need those tools because of the type of work that I do. So it's situation dependent.
Yep, good answer. All right, where are we on time? Charles is running short on time. We're 15 after the hour. All right, let's see. I've
So let's
learned SEO like a newbie waiter gradually becomes a restaurant owner. Yeah, you wear all the hats, you do all the jobs, and then you're in a good place to run the work.
yeah.
Um, I did every single boring work because I didn't have the money to outsource anything. Yeah, you do a startup, usually you're cleaning the bathrooms too because you didn't think to get janitorial staff in your startup funding. That's part of the experience. Let's see. Does meta keywords tag boost? This is a $25 question because Google doesn't punish the use of meta keywords, and it is a no index zone. So if you put a test keyword in a meta keywords tag by itself, it will not become findable for that test keyword. But recent research has shown that non indexing zones of the HTML can, in fact, boost. There are examples of these zones ranking things all the way to number one. The problem is, I don't know that anyone has tested meta keywords in a will it boost test scientifically.
Hmm.
So it's plausible that it could in fact work, but it's not proven by any means. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I love your answer. It's, I would say, perfect.
So here's a better, maybe a better version of that question. Would you guys put meta keywords on your pages?
Hell yes, and
Okay.
not for the boost. Uh,
Okay.
the one thing that all SEOs should do but never do is make a spreadsheet of all the canonical URLs of the website. So the official URLs for each piece of content, and put down the best target keyword for each one, and then you put that best target keyword into the meta keywords, and that way when you go to any page on the site you know what the goal post is. All right. And that shows that you're doing intentional SEO. Stop being the person that goes to Google Search Console, looks at every keyword that got impressions and loads it in a rank tracker. And now you're spending 3 weeks out of every month rank tracking things you're never going to tune. That's accidental SEO. And, when those all go red, oh no, the things we're never going to tune went red. So what? What about the things you are gonna tune? How are they doing? Do intentional SEO. Call your shots. What do you
That's
think,
that's in,
Lee?
that's
Or,
interesting you say that because I did something very similar, but not with the keyword, with whether we want the page indexed or not. So the big problem we always had is, do we even want this page in the index? So every page had to have a meta robots. And if we found a page without a meta robots, that means we didn't have a plan for it. And I use the meta robots as my way to communicate to myself in the future and to everybody else in the organization and to Google that we want this page in the index or we don't want this page in the index. Sorry, I interrupted you, Lee. I'll let you answer.
No, that's a great. I think that I agree with you, Ted, on the intentional SEO 100%. Would I stick meta keywords on my page? I would say no, simply because it used to work and then it didn't. So, it stopped boosting at some point. And since I have seen no data that suggests
it stopped indexing.
No.
To my knowledge, I have never seen a will it boost test on meta keywords. I have not seen that research.
What you found is that people that were stuffing all the keywords and variations and using that to rank stopped ranking for them. So I would suggest that is evidence that it stopped boosting at that time.
Yeah, I'm still thinking it stopped indexing and people felt that the boost went with the indexing. And I think that's an unknown.
I agree with you 100%. And even if it was, it's been a minute since that happened. So until somebody shows me,
exactly. And it's unanswered until I see the test for it.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. Would you say keywords are still important in modern SEO? Somebody's messing with us.
Well, I'll just say this, because there are some people that don't think that. They think that it's all about the semantic, this, that, and the other. It's like, find me a page that ranks without the keyword on it or a variation of that keyword. Can you rank for pizza without using the word pizza? You can use pepperoni, cheese, crust, sauce, all the things, all the different ways. Can you rank it for a keyword without using the keyword?
Google themselves are running around, and they've been doing this for years, saying, oh, we're looking for things, not strings, basically trying to say, don't worry about keywords. My response, but just like you say, Lee, is like, well, what are people typing into the search box? They're typing keywords into the search box. How does Google figure out what a page is around? It's about keywords. So
technically, they're looking for strings of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but Google is bolding keywords.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see. Somebody asks, why does anyone need to be in a diaper? Charles?
Yeah, Charles.
Sometimes you're on a long call. Bathroom's all the way on the other side of the house. I'm home alone anyways, so.
Oh my God, your business meetings at Microsoft must have been another level. Or not Microsoft, at Fox.
Yeah. Nobody's leaving this room until we solve this problem. Charles,
fixing this problem, folks.
Hope you guys prepared. I'm ready for all day. Let's see. Are exact match domains more prone to over optimization? Well, I can show you examples of web pages that visually have no text and are using, 5,000 exact matches on those pages that visually have no text, and they're number one for their keyword. All right, so over optimization. 5,000 exact matches when you have no text to show the visitor, that's okay. But if you do 5,200, we're going to get you. So what's the limit? Don't say over optimization. Give me a limit that I can then go and verify that nobody on page one exceeds. And to date, nobody has been able to provide a limit, a rational one. Don't say a trillion keywords or whatever, but a rational over optimization limit that can't be disproven by page one. We've never seen one of those. So in at least 7, 8 years of asking for an example, not one has materialized.
Yeah. I think I'll agree with that. We've never seen an example. And one of the things that came, and is not widely known, from the Quora shared data, there are a handful of web pages, and we don't know what they are, but there are a handful of web pages that rank on page 1 for their keyword and have the keyword mentioned in the HTML over 100,000 times. Ted likes to show the games examples. Like, oh, look, they're using it like 3,000 and some odd or 4,000 at times. But you got somebody that's done it 100,000 times. Where's the limit? I found one it was a couple of months ago. I found one that was in the 90,000 range. Didn't get the 100,000. But like, okay, so you got the keyword 90,000 times. Where's the penalty? You're in position 3. Where's the penalty for that? So I haven't seen over optimization at all. But exact match domains, they have some advantages to them because you got the keyword, in the domain, in the URL, there's some advantages to that. The disadvantage of exact match domains is you can't brand typically an exact match keyword. Can't brand a keyword typically. So there's some advantages to branded domains. There's some advantages to exact match, and it just depends on what you're trying to do and who you're going up against.
Any thoughts, Charles?
No, not on top of that stuff. Yes.
All right. Let's see. Oh, I accidentally scrolled. Here we go. All right. The blaming the agency game is so goddamn obnoxious. Yeah, there's the most common problem in SEO, and most SEOs don't even know the most common problem in SEO. And even fewer still know what to do about the most common problem in SEO. And I can tell you what it is because it walks in the door of every single agency just about every single day. And it sounds like this. So let me know if you've ever heard this before. Yeah, we used to have an SEO. It was going great for a while, but then it all stopped working. So we had to let him go. And now we're here talking to you. Number one problem is something is going on where your methodologies work for a while, then they kind of stop working, like you're locked out of your own tactics, and then they don't work anymore. And you have to figure out how to get unstuck. I know how to do it. Lee knows how to do it. Charles knows how to do it. Do you? What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the blaming the agency, goes back to what Charles was talking about. It saves your job, if you're internally and stuff like that. And that is one of the use of agencies or consultants is to come in a lot of times and deliver the exact same news that a department is trying to do, because now you've got outside, validation, or you've got something that is a little risky and you have an outside firm or consultant come in to present it. And then when the C-suite goes off with his head, they're like, I don't know who let that guy in here, who let that agency in here. We'll find a better agency. And then you know that the idea is dead. So, agencies are fodder in, the big corporations and even littler ones. Just
And
the nature of the game.
tool vendors are too. So same thing. Blame the vendor.
Yeah.
Let's see. What advice would you give to a new SEO agency, especially for lead gen? Well, I think, your opportunities in SEO are here. Your opportunities in lead gen are here. All right. So if you're looking for opportunities, don't narrow the scope. So be open to going to where the money is, wherever that might be. What do you think, Lee?
My I would start with the other direction. What do you do that's really, really well? What do you do, that's there? What's sort of your specialty? Because that determines who your target market should be. If you're really, really good at technical SEO, find people with technical problems. I mean, Ted's shown how to do that, with Shopify and some other e-commerce platforms with simple searches. You can identify people that have problems that you can solve. I mean, those are easy things because then you get a reputation, especially as a new agency, you get a reputation for, hey, I can deliver results. So, if I got called into a particular situation and we got to fix this uh, highly technical situation, I might or might not be able to figure it out. That's not my wheelhouse. That's more like a Ted wheelhouse. So Ted would come in and he could ace that. I would come in and, there's a risk there. There's a risk there then that I get a reputation for, damn, we hired Lee and, we had to let him go. And then we went and hired Ted and he fixed the damn thing. So I would start with what you're really, really good at and let that determine who to target.
Where can you create value? So
Yeah.
looking at the question, I think part of, because I see a second question in here. There's a question about basically, I think John here is looking for, he's looking for a way like, hey, I want to make a little extra money on the side with SEO. How can I do that? And my answer would be, don't get fixated on, oh, I'm going to do affiliate marketing, or I'm going to do rank and rent, or I'm going to do lead gen. Where can you add value, and go ahead and do that. I've done little side things for years. I did a lot of stuff with YouTube. I still do. And it was just a way for me to, it was just someplace I could add value. I went to other agencies and said, hey, I could do this for you if you'd like me to. And I had a lot of agencies that perfect. Then they'd white label stuff to me. And it wasn't a lot of money, but it was a decent, it was a decent little bit of income worth me doing. It was just a way to, build something on the side. But the key is, where can you, like Lee said, where can you create value? And then do that. Don't look for the easy solution or the easy side hustle kind of idea. I think that's leave that on LinkedIn. That's where it deserves. That's where it belongs to be.
Yeah, because you see that stuff on Signals Lab. Hey, I just got a plumbing client. How do I rank them? It's like, oh God. This is all kinds of problem right here.
Bill asks, what's your favorite way to get backlinks indexed quicker? And I like Clint's answer to this one. If it's important to you, use many indexing methods because some of them are bound to work currently. And so, yeah, if you have 8 different indexers, use them all. And I can attest that that seems to have better reliability. And whichever one works the fastest is going to work the fastest. So you get that too. What do you think, Lee?
I agree. All of the different indexing methods come in and out of favor. So somebody will say, this tool works really well for getting, well, this one's not working right now, and so forth, because they're using different methods and, they get different crawl and all of those kind of things. So one of the things you got to realize is that if you have one solution, at some points in time, it's not going to work as well as others. And there are points in time when Google's got a big middle finger up towards, all links right now because it's, core update. So it's not going to crawl and process certain things, at the speed that it would, regardless of what tool or method you use. So the best thing you can do is Clint's advice. It's use a bunch of different ones and, hope that one of them is effective.
Let's see. Would you recommend a rank and rent model for local to make some money on the side? Not really, because I think the concept of renting a website to a small local business is a little too technical, too out there for them. You'd probably do better selling the leads and setting up call tracking. That way, they don't even need to know about your network of sites. You're just delivering leads to a phone number and you're getting paid a bounty per lead. That would be the simple thing because then the customer knows exactly what they're buying and they know that they get a good return on that because those are warm. Those are people calling their business and asking for help. That is the best of all scenarios. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I was talking about the idea that it's never the model. If you can rank, you can make money doing that. So you've got a two-part problem here. Is like if you're looking at local, for example, can you rank highly in local? And can you rank high enough? Because now, with the way that the SERP has developed over time, organic doesn't get a lot of clicks and calls in local. So you have to rank in a big area, rank highly to get just a decent amount of calls, unless you have a GMB. Well, now if you're in sort of the lead gen rank and rent thing, it's like it's the whack-a-mole game. I've got to create GMBs and they're going to get taken down. Then I got to create more. And so are you set up for that sort of process? There are people that are and that make really killer money, doing that. The same thing. Can you rank an affiliate? If you can rank an affiliate, you can sign up for affiliate programs and make money there. If you rank in informational searches, you get lots of clicks to your site. You can, monetize that with ads. So you have to separate. First, can I rank? And then if I can rank, what's the monetization method that's going to get me paid for that ranking? And do I want to do that? So in rank and rent, you know, it's great if you can find somebody that'll rent your site and they'll rent it for years and never switch. But if you got, every month now I got to go find another plumber in Toledo to deal with, to sell my
Well,
leads to, it's a problem.
and here's the thing with rank and rent is you rank it, you rent it, they wreck it, they cancel, you have to rank it again.
Mhm.
Are you ready for those iterations?
Yeah.
The other thing JP mentions is that lead gen and rank and rent aren't what they used to be. So, yeah, they were a flash in the pan, and a lot of the easy money is already being heavily targeted. So you would have to be able to find the opportunity in this space, and do you even know how to do that? So
Yeah.
yeah, it might be more trouble than it's worth, but it's up to you. Maybe the perfect niche that nobody's been targeting.
Yeah, but both of those things, when you're looking at ranking is work, monetization is work. So, you have to figure out, one, can you do it? And two is, do you enjoy doing it? Because some people might enjoy, hey, I'm going to reach out and find another plumber to, rent my site to, or I'm going to find a different affiliate program with a higher payout, or, whatever it happens to be. So,
Yeah, Abigail says she's never scheduling another call with Charles again. No, he doesn't wear diapers. Everybody knows he's fond of his rubber pants.
yeah.
Let's see. 101 things I wish I didn't hear on Tuesday. Yeah, we went there. Sorry. What approach or tool do you use for content syndication across multiple properties? Uh, Quora, Reddit, YouTube. I don't do a lot of that. I'm thinking that it's not a bad idea because you're claiming more of the search results, so it's actually really good strategy. But it's difficult to monetize. So usually the plays that do well with that kind of syndication are like visual sales. You have a product with a stunning photo, and the photo's so cool that people are going to click through. That's kind of the easy money in that type of approach. Um, and yeah, I don't have a fulfillment center anymore, so I don't do a lot of it. What do you think, Lee?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of this, but the thing is, a lot of people will use like, I've got a blog and I hooked it up to IFTTT. And so as soon as I do a new blog post, it syndicates to certain other, branded properties, other properties that I have. I think one of the things that you can consider now is that it's not that hard, rather than just syndicating your content, is having AI rewrite your content and publishing it on, different platforms that you control. Might be a better use of it, because then you have the opportunity to get multiple rankings for the same piece of content, because it's not the exact same piece of content. Whereas if it's syndicated content, it's going to appear at most twice in the SERP, generally speaking.
All right. Looks like one question left. What are your thoughts on publishing thousands of programmatic data-driven pages at once? Will Google throw a hissy fit? No, they won't throw a hissy fit. They're just going to say new website, crawl budget 3,000. And it's going to take you a year or more to get all of those processed. So, the thing I would have you think about is, can you compartmentalize this website into multiple sites that have a smaller scope? Because the more you break it down into smaller scope websites, the more you can multiply crawl budget and get all that content to the surface faster. So I would be inclined to think about, can I run this application, whatever it might be, as 10 websites, as 20 websites, and then get 10 or 20 times the crawl budget. And then these websites, if they have overlap in targeted keywords, they'll rank side by side instead of cannibalizing. Whereas if you do it as one big website, you might have a large problem of cannibalizing, depending upon your keyword space. So that's what I would think about. What do you think, Lee?
I like to think about this problem a little more simply. You take one page, you've done the programmatic thing, and you got that one page up there. Why will Google crawl it and or rank it? Because sometimes you just want it crawled because it's for link building, but why will Google rank it? What's the signals? What's your theory about, okay, I'm going to put this one programmatic page up somewhere. And then you think, well, let's go with, all right, on a domain that's topically about that. All right, so maybe I put up more than that, 10 pages, 50 pages, whatever it happens to be, but you put up 5,000 pages, and now you got a mass page site, and you got all kinds of problems with the signals that, all mass page sites have. It's not that it can't be done. So the question is not this type of page and producing thousands of them. It's when they're out there, how is it going to get you the result that you want? How's it going to get crawled to give you the backlink, or how's it going to get crawled and indexed, and ranked to give you the ranking? What's the advantage that you're baking into that page that makes you think it's going to do the job you want it to do? And so until you solve that, like if it won't work on one page, it won't work on, 10,000 pages or 100,000 pages.
Yep, good point. So I'd like to remind everyone if they're looking for more content to consume in SEO, there's Clint Butler's SEO This Week on YouTube. It's a really good, informative show. There's also JP from chat. He has a GBP roast channel. So, check that out. The SEO video show is another good one by Dre DeVera. And so, yeah, check those things out. Don't forget about spring training. If you're looking to go, keep in mind that they can sell out, and hotels can sell out of accommodations. So if you think you might go, don't wait too long. And don't forget about the forum. If you want to ask the community more questions, you can go to seofightclub.org and help us build the forum. And Lee, before we go, how's your tested SEO training going?
We're good. We're in the middle of this particular session and having a good time, even in spite, because it seems like every time I run one of these things, Google says, hey, let's do a core update, and that makes it fun trying to rank things during a core update. But, we trudge on and we make progress. I'll also say that clearly, Charles put out a cry for help to the community. So if people want, you can go to SEOdiapers.com. You can give. We can help Charles through this time,
Yeah, we need to help him with his diaper budget.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry, Charles, we picked on you too much today. So we'll go light on you next week.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
All right, not a chance. Okay, we won't. All right, thank you everyone. Take care.